It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, today we're going to discuss a lawsuit that just finally came to an end without prejudice. We'll talk about this lawsuit. But at the end of today's video, I want to talk to you about 2 meters I came up with. 1 meter measures where you're at under delusional mentorship, and the other meter measures where you're at under thought leadership. Because there's a lot of delusional mentorship going on, it seems to me, as I read and listen to what's going on in our marketplace. And there's also some thought leadership going on in our marketplace. So I figured I'd come up with these meters so people could tell where they're at in each of those situations. But let's talk about this lawsuit because, folks, if you're in the Document Internet channel, those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment, you're not going to see any kind of information in the industry's blogs or media. I mean, they're not going to be talking about lawsuits, especially if the lawsuit involves Konica Minolta. It seems to me like, the industry doesn't really want to talk about that stuff. They'll talk about all the hype regarding companies or products, before there's an issue. But then if there's an issue, they just kind of don't say anything. So I want to do a big shout out to my friends over there at Actionable Intelligence, because this is the only place I could find this information. The information about a lawsuit between New England copier specialists, MWAI FORZA Konica Minolta. The case was dismissed without prejudice, but I want to get on the Sharp Interactive board. I want to go through this a little bit with you because, folks, I think it's important for our industry to pay attention to realities. For a long time now, I've been talking about how that Forza deal going back and forth, going to Konica wasn't really a big home run. I questioned it. Was it really just an asset sale? Did anybody really make any money? Did the private equity group that had a big investment in that, Gray Rock Capital, even walk away with any money? As I read through this lawsuit, it kind of appears that they probably didn't. It kind of appears that it was probably really a disaster, ended up over in Konica Minolta's hands. So without any further ado, let's just jump on the Sharp Interactive board. So let's start back here in April of 2022. NEC, and this is again NEC, New England Copier Specialist, gets default judgment against MWIA over problems with Forza. The default judgment was for $695,000, and basically default judgment means somebody didn't show up to court, didn't answer the play. There's an issue that the court said, oh, wait a second, why aren't you showing up? Why aren't you talking about this? Well, the reason they weren't showing up is because there was no MWAI. Konica gobbled up its assets. But needless to say, the court wanted to hear more, so the court heard some more. And folks, there's a bunch of different articles about this in Actionable Intelligence blog. You have to pay to read his stuff. But again, it's the only place you're going to see this stuff, right? I mean, our industry's media is not going to talk about this. I mean, they love to talk about the BLI awards, latest winners, and all that kind of stuff. And Konica, they love to brag about all the awards they won. They don't necessarily want to brag about any kind of lawsuits they're in, which, I guess I don't blame them. But folks, let's go down. I wanted to just pull up this latest article. So let me just scroll this down for you. So this was just published, and this was published on August 16th of 2022. And basically it says the case is dismissed, and the lawsuit came to an end after NECS was awarded a default judgment against MWAI and settled with KMBS. So I'm sure they settled. Did they settle for the whole amount that the default judgment was for, that $700,000 just about? I'm sure those folks over at New England Copier Specialists got what they needed to get to make them happy, right? But folks, the reality of it is, go read this stuff, because you're not going to find this in our industry's media. And folks, here's the reality. I went to our industry's media. I went to the Konica report, the Kanata report. There wasn't anything there that I could find. I went over to industry analysts. I couldn't find anything there about the lawsuit between a copier dealer, Konica Minolta, Forza, any issues with it at all. I couldn't find anything. I found a whole lot of press releases about how great Forza was back in the history, right? I went over to ENX magazine, couldn't find anything. Folks, the imaging channel blog, I typed it in, Konica Minolta lawsuit, and of course it says, sorry, nothing matched your search terms. I guess if I would have typed in Konica Minolta wins another award, there would all kinds of stuff pop up, right? Again, folks, our industry's media, they're not going to talk about this kind of stuff. They just won't do it, right? So you got to look outside the industry, especially as our industry is transitioning. We're trying to become managed service providers. We're trying to change the game, right? We're going to start looking outside. So I wanted to type something else into the imaging channel. And so, folks, here we go. Let me just pull this up. I typed in the consortium. And the reason I typed in the consortium is we know that the consortium and Forza, a lot of the same people involved. We all know Michael Strabalio started Strabalio Consulting, started this consortium thing. Hundreds of press releases. I don't know if it's hundreds, but folks, there's a whole bunch of them. Remember all the press releases over the last year and a half? You know, who joined, he joined, she joined, they joined, we're going to join together and do some crazy things to change the world. I just think we got to pay attention sometimes when we see all this hype. Because here's another thing I did. And, you know, look, by the way, you know, if the consortium, or Michael Strabalio or Strabalio Consulting, if you will, if I'm wrong here, please put in the comments where I'm wrong. But I tried to find the website for the consortium. And I type in consortium, Michael Strabalio, and here's what I get. Let me just click on it. And it goes to, you know, Strabalio Consultants website. And, you know, I don't see any hyperlinks going back to the consortium or anything, so I'm just confused. Is the consortium even existing anymore? Is this just a lot of hype? What's going on here? I mean, do they still have the website? I mean, if they do have the website, they need to get some people in there to probably help them get it up into the ratings so people could find it. But folks, you know me, I like to look at these websites. I like to look at the websites. Remember when I pulled up Tiger Paw's website and they hadn't updated their copyright in a year? And I kind of questioned that. IT services software company not updating the copyright on their website just makes people think you might be lazy. Well, I did the same thing over here for our friends at Strabalio Consulting, and no, it hasn't been updated since 2020. So you think you really should update the website, because people go there and they just get, even paying attention. I mean, there's two kind of whammies here. You can't really find the consortium website easy, but you see a whole lot of press releases about everybody to join this thing. And then you go to the consultant's firm, Strabalio Consulting, who's kind of spearheading up this consortium. And the website's copyright hasn't been updated since 2020. Just kind of interesting. I think people should pay attention to that. Remember, Power MPS was another one. You know, I should have looked before I did this video just to see if they had updated their website. I'm pretty sure they probably have by now. But remember that video I did, a month and a half ago, where their website wasn't updated either? You know, folks, the bottom line is our industry's been trying to replace the ERP system for a while. Our industry gets presented software solutions. You know, I did a video one time and I called it some of this stuff vaporware. There's all kinds of people coming into the marketplace. By the way, the print marketplace is actually declining. We got all these people coming in with all this new print software. It's kind of interesting to me. We got people out there promoting e-commerce sites. It's really just about a bottle of toner and maybe some, you know, old encyclopedia as an example. But at the end of the day, our industry's got to start questioning things a little bit more than maybe they have in the past. So without any further ado, let me pull up my 2 meters. So we have over here on the right side of the screen, thought leadership, the thought leadership meter. Over here on the left, we have delusional mentorship meter, the delusional mentorship meter. So I want to go ahead and we're going to start out with the delusional mentorship meter. And that meter starts over here in the green, and the first place that meter can go is unrealistic dreamer. That's where that meter starts. People with just unrealistic dreams. And then the meter moves up to an unrealistic optimism. These are the people that everything's going to be just perfect. Everything's fantastic. Everything's great. If anybody brings up anything controversial, if anybody attempts to talk about something that needs to be talked about, well, these unrealistic optimists will think it's negative. You know, what a negative person. Negative. That's terrible. We'd rather stay here in a comfort of delusion. Then it moves up to unsubstantiated claims. Unsubstantiated claims, you know. The unrealistic dreamer, unrealistic optimism moves into unsubstantiated claims. Then it goes into delusional accomplishments. I mean, they start talking about things that are just delusional accomplishments. People question, what are you talking about? Then it goes down to where everybody wakes up in a nightmare. They wake up in a cold sweat. They're like, oh my God, I just participated in a delusional mentorship. Let's go over here to thought leadership meter. Folks, the thought leadership meter starts over here in the red. It starts over here with a critical challenge. Then it moves up to awareness with details. It's not just about a critical challenge. The thought leader has an awareness and the details of that challenge. Then it moves up to an understood solution. An understood solution to the challenge. Because there's an awareness. They're able to articulate that understood solution. It's not a fantasy. Then it moves over to you can imagine possibilities. The thought leader and those with the thought leader start imagining the possibilities. They start seeing what could be based on what should be. Then it moves over to your imagination comes true. It comes true. Things come true. And then you start all over again with that critical challenge. Folks, we need to be in the thought leadership arena. We need to stop paying attention to delusional mentorship. Because as our industry starts to consolidate, starts to decline even more than it already is, it's going to get pressure, it's going to get challenges. I did a video not too long ago, and this is what I said. I said, we can't sacrifice knowledge based on perceptions of relationships. We can't sacrifice knowledge based on perceptions of relationships. And folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. Our industry's media, the blogs out there, the Konica report, the Kanata report, industry analysts, ENX magazine, the imaging channel. We've been reading, watching some of their videos for a long time. We know what they're going to talk about, and we know what they're not going to talk about. Here's the reality. For our industry to maintain a continuous relevance, we have to go to the places and find the information that all these folks are just not going to talk about. Because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.